only one thing in common with other 200.
Striking telephone workers showed up in front of the Central 9X building in Hempstead as they've done for the past 11 weeks. But while they picketed outside, someone was on the inside robbing the National Payment Center.
An unknown male Hispanic enters the National Payment Center. He enters a locked door. There's a combination lock. He enters the door and produces an automatic weapon and demands the deposits that are kept in a safe.
Excuse me, he knows the combination?
We're still investigating it. Apparently, that's a possibility at this time.
Police won't say whether or not it's an inside job. They said the robber made off with about $70,000 in cash and $40,000 in checks. Witnesses say he fled in a red car, possibly a Pontiac.
Description on the subject is a male Hispanic, approximately 6 foot, well dressed, wearing a brown trench coat, brown slacks, dark shoes, well shined. He also had on a Halloween mask, which was fashioned after an old man with hair coming down the sides.
According to striking telephone workers demonstrating at another end of the building, there were about 6 police officers right here at the scene. So ironically, workers say, while the police were busy with the strikers, just around the corner, the robbery was taking place.
They're putting up barricades and telling us we'll go to jail if we pass the barricades, and they're robbing the till in the front.
The payment center is the main location on Long Island for paying phone and utility bills in person. Phone customers usually come here with final disconnect notices in hand. But with the center closed for police investigation, customers were turned away, many complaining this was the last straw.
My phone service was turned off and I can't reach the phone company to find out why it's turned off or to work out an arrangements to have it turned on, because getting through to them is just impossible, it seems.
The National Payment Center is owned by Instabank, a private billing company that leases this space from New York Telephone. When I asked if the money and checks stolen from here are guaranteed or insured, I got no comment. So you can chalk this one up to more inconvenience for customers already frustrated by a strike entering its 12th week. In Hempstead, I'm Roma Torrey, News 12, Long Island.
A Brentwood preschool had been operating successfully for 17 years, but now it's been ordered to close by a Lutheran church. Education editor Roma Torrey is here now with the rest of this story. Roma?
Well, that's right, Melba. The Prince of Peace Preschool, with its 215 children, operates out of the Prince of Peace Lutheran Church. It is a Christian school that educates children of all denominations, Catholic, Jewish, even Hindu. After 17 years of respected service in the community, the school is suddenly given notice by the church that it's not teaching enough religion to the children, and it has 2 weeks to close its doors. That news came as a bombshell today for the parents. Parents arriving at the Prince of Peace preschool to drop their children off for the day found out the grim news for the first time. The school was ordered to close, and they have 2.5 weeks to do it.
I don't know whether it's by the church or what, and I don't know what the problem is, but I don't think they should take it out on our children in the middle of a school year.
I will be upset.
You will be upset? Why?
Because I will miss my teacher.
The notice came in the form of a letter from the Lutheran church where the school is housed. In the letter, the church complains the preschool is not in keeping with the spirit in which it was begun, nor the Christian ideals of the church. And yet the school was begun by the very same woman who's running it now, Bonnie Johnstone, who's been running it successfully for the past 17 years.
There was a new parish planning council elected in June, and since then they've been making drastic changes to the preschool.
Just a week ago, in a meeting with the church, Johnstone had been assured the school could stay open, at least until the end of the year.
It is on tape recorder that they would not change anything until June. So we're really baffled as to why they now have given us our eviction notice.
Besides the inconvenience of losing their school in mid-year, parents say it is now impossible to find an alternative school.
I called 15 schools yesterday. They already have a waiting list for next September. None of them will take a child in the middle of the year in January.
Parents complain they've been shut out from the decision-making process from the start, and they're furious. They insist the school does teach plenty of Christian ideals to the children, but they complain the pastor of the church, Carl Wayne Leeser, never returns messages. And sure enough, he wasn't in when we paid a call.
That's the invisible man. Nobody can reach him, and he won't talk to nobody.
What happens when you call him?
When we call, he's never there.
But the biggest concern is for the children. Johnstone says the disruption of services can be traumatic for some kids. And this church member, whose children once attended the preschool, says she's so upset by the notice, she's leaving the church for good.
Just before the holidays, we're going to have to find a new place because I cannot believe that a Christian would do this to another Christian. I just can't believe it.
There are a few people that just want us out, and that's all there is to it, and they don't have any regard for these children.
Well, we did try to reach Pastor Leeser again late this afternoon, and we got a message machine. Meanwhile, Bonnie Johnstone has seen a lawyer, and together they're trying to figure out a way to keep the school open at least until June so the kids can finish out the year.
So if he picks up his messages, maybe he'll give you a call back.
We hope so. Maybe we'll follow up tomorrow.
Thank you.
The check is symbolic, but when the real one comes, it could turn a school district from a disaster to a success. It's all due in part to some expert detective work on the part of the school superintendent, Dr. Wright, his business manager, and Assemblywoman Earlene Hill.
Unknowingly, Hempstead has been denied over $2 million for 11 years because the simple arithmetic was not done correctly.
They worked for the past year convincing the state education department that the calculations were wrong. It turns out to be one of the worst mistakes in state history, but Hill says the problem is common.
Unfortunately, they're usually in the favor of the state, and the school districts and the children do suffer.
In the Hempstead School District, that money is desperately needed. And while other districts may ask, what do we spend it on? In this district, the question is, where do we begin? What may seem like a pond is actually the high school roof. It's been leaking for 14 years, and the damage is everywhere.
Everywhere you go, there's water coming in. It's a nice school, but it's horrible because of your education gets destroyed because of the rain.
On austerity, the school couldn't make big repairs, and over the years, the problems got worse and worse.
I think it has a negative effect on student morale. I think that this is a very beautiful building, but to have numerous leaks throughout the building that we've had for a period of time shows a lack of care.
Another portion of the money will be spent on instructional programs, buying badly needed computers, and improving the entire curriculum.
I'm very elated to know that we're able to get this money at a time that is needed on an austerity budget.
The news spread fast throughout the high school, and when Principal Ronald Eaton made the announcement to this class, they burst into applause.
All of the money will not go to the high school. It certainly will be a start in the right direction.
In Hempstead, I'm Roma Torrey, News 12, Long Island. Hundreds of strikers, all members of CWA, the Communication Workers of America, rallied in front of Nassau County's telephone headquarters in Garden City.
We wanted to bring all of our people out here today to give them an idea of what's going on with negotiations and to let them know where we stand. We still have a long way to go.
This is the first rally 9 ex-workers in Nassau County have had since Monday, when it looked like a tentative agreement was being reached. But the 500 strikers out here have made it very clear to me that nothing is over or settled yet, and they are prepared to stay out as long as it takes.
We want to know about the medical, what we're settling for, why they're restructuring the wording, what's going on.
The major sticking point was the company's insistence that workers pay part of their medical benefits. But union officials tell me management has given up on that issue.
It's a shame it took 15 weeks to come up with a package, the same package that we had prior to the strike starting. If that package was always there, and now after 15 weeks it's there, shame on who?
But now it's the retirees, 14,000 on Long Island alone, who are worried. The company is still demanding they pay part of their benefits.
People that are working now and the people that are going to retire have to pay their own medical. This is the reward they get for being so loyal to this company. It's a shame.
Union officials say there are many other issues still unsettled at the local bargaining table, and they're doubtful those matters will be resolved anytime soon.
We could be out here for a while longer.
Another 15 weeks?
Oh, I hope not, but we'll be here until we get them resolved.
Could you all go another 15 weeks?
Yes, I think they could.
The workers say the strike has left lasting scars, and their frustration over the past 15 weeks has turned to bitterness.
We'll never forget this, and management will know it. Everything we're going to be working 9 to 5, and that is it.
So when the strike is truly settled and everyone goes back to work, it's likely to take much longer before business returns to usual. In Garden City, I'm Roma Torrey, News 12, Long Island.
Yeah, I have a few black friends, but, they're cool.
It would have moved more into the neighborhood.
I don't know. I don't know what I would do about it. I'd probably move out if I could.
We keep blacks out of Massapequa, or we keep Massapequa clean.
This is Long Island. They're your neighbors. They could be your kids. Young people are frequently the tools, the victims of prejudice.
I want to go to Harvard. I want to go on Wall Street.
Yeah, and become what?
Well, a booker, I guess.
What these children share are big dreams, but without equality in education, those dreams fade into harsh nightmares of reality.
Long Island schools are doing what the American public schools do, and they are. All of these schools are creating racists. They are taking children who do not even understand the concept of race, and they are racializing these youngsters.
Experts say children begin to form powerful attitudes about self-esteem and their place in society at very early ages. The home is the place those attitudes are first formed. The school is one place where they're reinforced. 11-year-old Marcia Niles goes to the Washington Rose School in Roosevelt. Her curriculum is no different from that of fellow sixth grader Nicole DeLuise in the Half Hollow Hills School District. But consider this. The Roosevelt School District spends about $6,000 each year on Marcia. The Half Hollow Hills District can offer $9,000 to Nicole, 40% more. And teachers' salaries aren't even close. The average pay for a Roosevelt teacher is $28,000 a year. In Half Hollow Hills, it's $44,000.
We need resource centers. We have a lot of students who are behind in math and reading. We can't accommodate all of them. Fundamentally, K through 2 students should be serviced, but we don't have the facilities nor the monies to do so. They don't get the extra attention. They don't get the extra reading skills or the math skills that they need. And consequently, if they don't work hard in the classroom and go home and to reinforce those skills, they eventually lose out.
To me, it looks like blatant discrimination. Why shouldn't all children be given the opportunity to be exposed to like things at the given time when somewhere down the line we're going to be given the same test if we want to go to college? And this is what the bottom line is.
On Long Island, 81% of the student population is white, non-Hispanic. That leaves a minority of mostly blacks, Hispanics, and Asians. How are they getting along? Depends where you go. The Glen Cove School District prides itself on a successful and progressive policy of integration. And yet at lunchtime, a peculiar thing happens. Students voluntarily segregate themselves.
Most of the white kids eat in one cafeteria, most of the black kids eat in the other one, so that might be one problem.
It's stupid that there's 2 cafeterias, like one for the blacks, one for the whites. You should just sit wherever you want to sit, and wherever your friends are at. That's what I do.
Why don't the other kids do that?
I don't know.
If I had my druthers, we would have a situation where the kids at lunch would all be eating together. There's no question about that. But our approach has to be slow and cautious in that area. And certainly we've seen evidence of really positive interaction among the kids.
According to Hofstra University professor Dr. Michael Barnes, children form strong attitudes about race long before school ever starts.
I think that we're transmitting a message that that light and white is right or better.
In a Hofstra experiment last year involving preschool-aged children like these kids, researchers found 7 out of 10 white and black children chose to play with white dolls. Many of those children responded like this little girl, who was not part of the experiment herself.
Show me which doll you think is the pretty doll. Which doll is the bad doll? And which doll is the smart doll?
Dr. Barnes says we are all to blame for planting the early seeds of prejudice, home, schools, the media. But experts also say they're encouraged that more and more schools are aware of the role they play in fostering and dispelling attitudes based on race. And with awareness, they say, come solutions. A few years ago, Floral Park High School began a state-ordered integration program that combined mixing the races with an extra push toward achievement. Fittingly enough, it's called Bridge, and while it hasn't been easy, those involved say it works.
We believe that all the students will go on to college. The Bridge has completely surpassed our expectations in terms of the enthusiasm it has brought to the entire student body.
But the Floral Park program is all too rare, and critics complain Long Island school districts are doing little, if nothing, to teach racial equality and appreciation of the different ethnic backgrounds.
We've gone backwards even since I've been out here in terms of educational responsibility.
And yet one need only to witness the innocence, the optimism of youth, to learn there's always hope. Do you think in your neighborhood there are problems that you have to be afraid of or avoid?
Yes.
What's that?
People driving crazy. There's people that want to take you. I don't know what for, but there's people that want to kill you. They try to kill you.
Does that hurt your education, do you think?
No. Nobody or no thing can stop me from learning.
I'm Roma Torrey, News 12, Long Island.
Here with a review, Roma Torrey.
Okay, thanks, Scott. Melba, you believe it or not, it has been 30 years since Disney last produced an animated fairy tale, and it was well worth the wait. The Little Mermaid is that Hans Christian Andersen classic about the mermaid daughter of a sea king who falls in love with a human prince. The willful Little Mermaid makes a pact with the sea witch. In exchange for the mermaid's beautiful voice, the witch turns the mermaid into a human, complete with a shapely pair of legs. The deal is that the mermaid must make the prince kiss her within 3 days of being human, or else she is doomed for eternity. With Disney animators at the drawing board, how could you go wrong? I especially admired the way the creators maintained their classic style and yet managed to give the film some modern appeal. For example, the scene-stealing crab named Sebastian with a West Indian accent doing a calypso rendition called Under the Sea.
Under the sea, under the sea, darling, it's better down where it's wetter, take it from me. Up on the shore they work all day, out in the sun they slave away, while we're devoting full time to floating under the sea.
Roberto should do his weathercast that way, don't you think? Disney wisely lets the crab and the other sidekick sea creatures chew a little scenery, and the result is a perfect blend of romance, fantasy, and good old-fashioned slapstick humor. And kind of a bonus, while this is a children's movie, adults shouldn't help but notice the hidden messages involving prejudice and parental responsibility and abuse. But all that grown-up stuff aside, The Little Mermaid is one of the best films to see this holiday season on land or sea.
You know who's going to be lining up to see it right away?
He saw it already. What do you say?
Oh, he did.
Don't you know him well?
That's old news.
I love that tomorrow.
We had a fire in that basement. The basement could either fully involve the school, blow the school up, and if there were any children in there, I think they would be in danger throughout the whole thing.
Inspector Paul Casella from the Fire Marshal's office says the Hempstead schools are Nassau County's worst in terms of fire prevention safety. More than 60 violations remain outstanding. When we arrived at the middle school for a surprise inspection, we found gasoline cans and flammable chemicals improperly stored. There was only one exit. Fire extinguishers expired for years, and a situation where exhaust fumes leak into the schoolrooms.
It goes up there and they can't breathe either.
They can't breathe because they're smelling the exhaust fumes.
Right, it goes straight up, and they complained about it. That's why they made the home economics, the teacher's lounge. And then they put the home economics on the other side of the building.
So what's directly above here?
You have classrooms.
So the kids are smelling it.
Right now, yeah.
This room contains pipes covered with friable asbestos, a serious health hazard, in a place where workers are constantly moving in and out.
Like I was told to take all the asbestos off the pipes, all the asbestos covering.
You did it yourself?
Which I did it myself, but at the time I didn't know I could refuse to do it. And they couldn't do anything, but I didn't know at the time.
Did you wear protective clothing?
Just the coveralls that I had, you know, and I had a hat.
Maintenance workers say it's been like this for more than 20 years, and they're angry it's taken so long to correct.
We've been promised over the years, you know, that we've had renovations taken care of down here. but nothing's ever happened.
But the problems don't end here. Inside the middle school, we tested the fire alarms.
Nothing's working. No, and say now I got. Oh, there it goes. Where?
The alarms sound in only one part of the building. In case of a fire, half the building would never hear a thing. If you had children in that middle school, what would you be doing right now?
I'd be very worried, and I'd take them out of that middle school and put them someplace else.
In Hempstead, I'm Roma Torrey, News 12, Long Island.
The overwhelmed. Since the United Presbyterian residents first started, our focus.
From Montauk in the east to Great Neck in the west. News about Long Island for the people of Long Island. 24 hours every day. This is News 12 Long Island. And now, the daytime edition.
There was rain and there was fog, but most of all, there was celebration as Long Island and the world entered the 90s.
We're now well into the first day of 1990, and most of the parties are little more than a memory. But that was hardly the case last night. As always, the big crowd gathered at Times Square in Manhattan. An estimated 200,000 people braved the elements to watch the big ball usher in the new decade. But Manhattan wasn't the only place to party. The crowd at the Garden City Hotel whooped it up as the 90s dawned. In Uniondale, the party was at the Nassau Coliseum, where about 20,000 people gathered for Billy Joel's New Year's Eve concert.
And of course, many Long Islanders rang in the new year from the warmth and dryness of their homes, all perfectly enjoyable ways to mark the new year. But Anthony and Anne-Marie Buono had other plans. They had a date at Mid-Island Hospital where Anne-Marie gave birth to the island's first baby of the 90s at 12:02 this morning. Little Roseanne Buono checked in at 6 pounds, 12 ounces, and we are told both mother and daughter are doing just fine.
But this New Year's was also marked by tragedy. Nassau police are investigating a hit-and-run accident in New Hyde Park that left one man dead. Investigators say the accident happened around 1:30 this morning. A man out walking on Jericho Turnpike near Leonard Boulevard was struck by a late model car as he was crossing the highway. The man's name is being withheld until his family is notified. A female companion who was with the man was not injured.
And now with more on the New Year's night on the roadways is News 12's Barbara Wood. She is at the Nassau County Highway Patrol in Westbury. Barbara?
Hi, here with me is Sergeant Leo Brandino. Tell me, what were the roads like last night?
The roads were wet. It was raining most of the evening, and the visibility was poor. But luckily, the temperature was above freezing. There was no icing conditions. There was no snow. But the visibility did slow traffic down.
And how about any police action? Were there a lot of accidents?
In a 24-hour period from 7:30 yesterday morning to 7:30 this morning, there were 53 reported accidents in areas patrolled by Nassau County Police.
And how is that? Would you say that was average or a little high?
That was average. On a weekend day, there wouldn't normally be many more accidents.
Okay, and any drunk driving arrests?
There was reported 15 drunk driving arrests in Nassau County in areas patrolled by Nassau County Police and various village police departments. On a weekend night, the arrests may be a little higher for other reasons. The visibility and the traffic conditions did keep traffic down.
Okay, so then you say that's a little low. Are people more aware about driving while intoxicated?
People are aware, but the enforcement has increased. Overall, throughout the last year, enforcement increased from approximately 4,000 arrests the previous year to 5,000 arrests this past year.
Okay, well, as you heard, there was one fatality last night, and while one fatality is certainly too many, it could have been a lot more on this New Year's. Back to you in the studio.
All right, Barbara, thanks very much. And we have more transportation news for you today. When the ball in Times Square came down, fares on the Long Island Railroad went up.
Starting today, the average price of a ticket on the LIRR climbs 15%. Riders knew the increase was coming, but that didn't make them any happier about digging deeper.
If they're going to have the same lousy service, I think that the fares should stay the same.
I'm very unhappy about it because I feel that the service lately has been very poor, and if they want a 15% fare increase, they should at least improve the service.
I think it's unfortunate and unreasonable. And I think they're overdoing it and giving us less.
Well, one thing some riders were happy about, starting today, there is no smoking allowed anywhere on the Long Island Railroad. The ban covers every terminal, including Penn Station, but smokers will be able to light up on outdoor platforms.
Lee, just minutes after 1990 began, so too did a new era in New York City politics. 61-year-old David Dinkins became New York's first black mayor, taking the oath of office in a private ceremony in the Bronx. The former Manhattan Borough president is the 106th mayor of the Big Apple, and he succeeds fellow Democrat Ed Koch, whose 12-year reign as his honor ended at midnight. About 100 people attended this morning's ceremony, including the Reverend Jesse Jackson.
And political history is not limited to New York City this New Year's Day. It's also being made in the town of North Hempstead, where Ben Zwirn takes office as town supervisor. As Doug Gee tells us, it's Zwirn's membership in the Democratic Party that makes today one for the history books.
Woodrow Wilson was president, the Chicago White Sox beat the New York Giants in the World Series, and Prohibition was about to become the law of the land. The year was 1917, the last year a Democrat served as North Hempstead town supervisor. Philip Christ, a New Hyde Park native, called the shots at Town Hall from 1907 to 1917. Though more than 7 decades separate their tenure at Town Hall, there is something the two Democrats have in common. Philip Christ went into business with his father and ultimately established his own firm, a seed company. Likewise, Ben Zwirn went into business with his father, and he now runs the family business, an importer and exporter of nuts.
I know that it was about 73 years ago, and his family became Republicans after that. I don't know what that means exactly.
Christ's grandson is a sitting judge in Nassau County, Halstead Christ. As for Philip Christ, success followed him after he left Town Hall. He went on to become a bank president. Whether Zwirn will follow Christ's path remains to be seen, but no matter what, Zwirn's name is sure to go down in the history books, breaking a 7-decade Republican hold on Town Hall.
History is the easy part. It's going to be getting things done. I haven't asked for a recount yet, but the Parks Commissioner job looked pretty good when John Kiernan got that appointment the other day.
Doug Gee, News 12, Long Island.
And joining Zwirn in taking oaths of office as town supervisor today are Democrat Stephen Ferraro in Huntington and Republicans George Stavropoulos in Southampton and Scott Harris in Southold. Also taking oaths are Republican William Catterson as Suffolk District Attorney and Republican Patrick Mahoney as County Sheriff. The Republicans also will end the day with an absolute majority in the county legislature in Suffolk as 5 new legislators take their seats. Meanwhile, in Nassau County, today marks the start of Thomas Galata's first full 4-year term as Nassau County Executive.
And let's say good luck to all of them. Coming up, what's day 1 of the new decade going to be like? Joe Chaffee has the details next.
And 1990 has a pretty nice ring to it, and everyone probably had their own special way of ringing in the new year. Well, Long Island, how did you do it? We're asking, and here's what you're saying.
My name is Huey Spadaro. I'm from Hicksville. I went to church last night, came home, sat with my wife, watched the new year come in, and then went to bed. That's the extent of my life for the new year.
Dawn, Plainview, and I went to Buttles and had a great time.
My name is Andrew Japanis. I live in Queens Floral Park. We had a New Year's Eve party with about 15 guests. We enjoyed ourselves till 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning.
Binder and Binder helped me get the disability benefits I was due.
Right during the free consultation, they told me they could help, and they did.
For over 10 years, the firm of Binder and Binder has helped thousands obtain Social Security disability benefits. Call now for a free consultation and find out how their experience can help you.
They knew the laws, really knew them. They helped me fight for my benefits and win.
The law firm of Binder and Binder. Call our offices in Hauppauge or Mineola now for a free consultation.
Hurry to Park Pontiac, the place where service and quality meet 18 years of exclusive Pontiac experience. Right now, Park Pontiac is offering tremendous savings on all 1989 and 90 Pontiacs. Park Pontiac's service department is equipped with experienced mechanics and the latest in high-tech diagnostic equipment. That's why Park Pontiac can attribute 90% of their sales to repeat customers and recommendations. Come to Park Pontiac and drive away with your dream car before it disappears. Park Pontiac, conveniently located on Hillside Avenue in New Hyde Park.
You could ring in a new decade as Miss Long Island 1990.
Gentlemen, Melba Tolliver and Alan Gerstel.
A scholarship is just part of what the title awards you. It also starts you on the road to the Miss America pageant. If you have what it takes to win, write to this address.
On April 18th, we'll be live from the Garden City Hotel, and you can see the pageant on News 12 Long Island.
Maybe we'll see you there.
Negotiations continue between U.S. and Vatican officials for the release of Manuel Noriega. Unconfirmed reports out of Panama indicate the Vatican embassy is leaning toward releasing the fugitive former leader, but the White House so far isn't publicly commenting on any deal. The new Panamanian government is preparing murder charges against Noriega. Officials want him turned over to stand trial for the deaths of 10 military officers who led a failed coup against Noriega last October. Noriega has been holed up in the Vatican embassy in Panama since Christmas Eve. Now, back here in the States, soldiers wounded in Panama were visited by President and Mrs. Bush over the weekend. The 58 American servicemen are recovering in Texas hospitals. Now, it's 26,000 U.S. troops remain in Panama.
And the new year rang in with promises of political freedom in Romania. The government issued a statement saying Romanians are free to organize almost any political party except those advocating fascism or contrary to the state of law and order. In a New Year's address, government leader Ion Iliescu promised an end to executions, declaring the firing squad deaths of the country's former leader Nicolae Ceausescu and his wife to be the last.
New Year's festivities took place all around the world. And while most of the celebrations were joyous, others were solemn and even violent. In the Philippines, authorities say partygoers shot guns and fireworks, injuring more than 1,700 people in Manila. And in Hong Kong, more than 2,000 people lit candles in support of democracy.
What a way to start out the decade. We actually have some temperatures in the 40s today, and I can't believe that.
A little bit of a thaw gift for the next 4 or 5 days. I think most of this week will be near or above normal for a switch. So I guess it just stands to reason, since winter started about 6 weeks early, that we're getting maybe the traditional January thaw, which normally doesn't happen. And it is a meteorological occurrence, the thawing of wintertime. You get about a week to 10-day period where the temperatures go above normal and it's reasonable. Usually that happens at the end of January. We're getting it a little bit early because it started back in November. And we went above normal yesterday for the first time after 32 consecutive days of below normal temperatures. December wound up being one of the coldest months ever. We'll look at that in a second. But for today, as the traditional New Year's Day festivities, and Happy New Year's to all of you at home, a Happy New Year, singular. We do have, of course, the endless parade of bowl games today. You'll notice the weather around the country is not all that threatening. In the southern states, there may be a late-day thunderstorm that might roll through Miami before the Orange Bowl kicks off tonight. But after that, you've got the Sugar Bowl in New Orleans, but that's indoors. The Cotton Bowl outside of just some high clouds in North Texas, no problems. And in Southern California, a weather system will be moving on shore. At least in the northern part of the state, they'll get some hefty rainfall. But through Southern California, there'll be just some clouds and maybe the risk of a passing shower, but no problems. And the bowling forecast for the Orange Bowl, we're picking Colorado, Miami and the Sugar, Arkansas and the Cotton, and Bo Schembechler. This is his last game at the Rose Bowl. It'll be his last loss, too. We're picking USC. Sorry, those are picks. By the way, those are picks on who's going to win the game. We don't do point spreads here. December 1989. This is Noyak, Don Thompson. All this week, we'll look at a different spot every day on the island to review the past month. This ranks not only probably, if not the coldest December, at least among the 5 coldest, but one of the coldest months we've seen here on Long Island in quite a long time. 31.3, the average high. The average low is 16.6. This is colder than the normal temperatures you expect in January or February, or even if you just average out the coldest 6-week period it was still colder than that when you look at statistics. The mean came out to 24. That's 11.3 degrees below normal. The rainfall for the month and all of it, or just about most of it, fell this weekend, 1.88 inches. That breaks the string of 10 consecutive months of above normal rainfall going back to April, May, June, July, August, October, November. 8 consecutive. Well, anyway, that string's broken. 1.88. Snowfall for the month was below normal in eastern Long Island, just 2 inches. We are just going to dry out today, as most of you celebrants from last night will be drying out too, with a little tomato juice or whatever helps your headache. We'll try and talk in a lower tone of voice for you. We'll sweep the clouds on out today. There may be a scattered leftover shower or snow flurry, but then we set up for a great middle part of the week. I think by Wednesday time, we'll see temperatures with sunshine approach 50 as high pressure is building in from the south. The cold air has already modified itself since it plunged so far to the south and west of us. By the time it gets here, it's going to be a pretty warm air mass, relative to this time of year, of course. Here's your forecast now for the boaters for the rest of the day. Northwest winds at 15 to 25 knots, 3 to 5 foot seas on the ocean, 2 to 3 feet on the sound. Visibility 1 to 2 miles, improving to 5 miles late today. Water in the upper 30s and tides near normal. High tides for Jones Beach, Port Jeff, and Montauk Point. If you're tempted to skate, make sure you check the ice. We went into the low 50s yesterday. Even as cold as it's been, the ice is still pretty thick, but it may start to be maybe thinning in spots.
Talking about ice, it was incredible what happened here on Saturday.
Oh, with the ice, with the freezing rain. Oh, yeah, and it was certainly going by my old standard of better you get all snow or all rain, but when you start dealing with this freezing rain stuff, that's really makes it impossible to go anywhere. At least in snow, you got traction on your tires.
True.
You can't do anything.
That black ice is really dangerous. I literally had to chisel my car doors open. It was really.
We didn't do anything. We just stayed inside.
If you can do that, it's great.
That's it.
Thanks, Joe.
All right, thanks, Joe. Well, out with the old and in with the new, and that includes calendars, too. Jack Halesill reports on some of the most eye-catching books of the 1990s.
The fundamental things apply as time goes by.
It's time to buy another fundamental time marker and to see how the 1990 calendars stack up. Swimsuit editions aside.
I didn't know what time it was.
Youngsters may be attracted to things that fly, like Batman, but parents are buying the calendar for kids that has stickers to mark special days. Looks like a lot of special days in 1990.
I didn't know what day it was.
There are calendars for real sports, but the only place you'll see Herschel in a Cowboys uniform in 1990 is in the 1990 Cowboys calendar.
I didn't know what year it was.
Some 1990 calendars are the cat's meow. Others are real dogs. A few are just for the birds. Taylor's Bookstores carries 160 varieties. For many, that's too many to choose from.
Yeah, I think so, but I mean, I was looking at the price too.
7 years ago, stores like this carried as many as 500 different styled calendars. It thoroughly confused consumers, so the stock was drastically pared back. Even so,
there's so many.
So many calendars, so little time. Jack Halesill reporting from Arlington, Texas.
And whichever one you choose, the good news is right about this time of year, they're all 50% off.
That's right, a bargain.
Well, still ahead today, the start of a new year means the start of some new laws as well. We'll have the details.
And how did Long Islanders say goodbye to the 80s and hello to the 90s? We asked, and here's what you said.
My name is Kevin O'Hay. I'm from Plainview. I worked at the Bagel Boss for all New Year's night from 8 o'clock last night to 8 this morning. And I cleaned up for New Year's.
My name is Paul Pavlatos. I live at 1 Fems Court in Syosset. I left yesterday at 3 o'clock. I went home. I had a couple hours of sleep. And then I got up about 10 o'clock and celebrated New Year's. And I came back 3:30 in the morning to prepare for the rest of the day.
Under New Jersey.
As the new year begins, begin a new career at Paul Corporation, one of Long Island's largest employers. If you or someone you know has a technical degree, bachelor's through PhD, watch Eye on Careers to learn about job opportunities for lab analysts, field engineers, and staff scientists. For more information, watch Eye on Careers and look for Paul's open house ad in the classifieds of Newsday and the New York.
Time to call Carpet Masters. Carpet Masters will professionally clean the carpet in 2 rooms for only $34.95. Time to call Carpet Masters. For only $59.95, Carpet Masters will professionally clean your sofa and love seat combination. Carpet Masters highly concentrated solution deep cleans your carpet and upholstery, featuring deodorizers, color brighteners, and degreasers. Carpet Masters specializes in pet stain removal, sanitizing, rust removal, and flood damage. When it's time to clean your carpet or upholstery, call 800-PU-CARPET for Carpet Masters.
A Freeport man remains in critical condition today at the Nassau County Medical Center after a shootout with police early yesterday. Police say they were out on patrol when they spotted 27-year-old Anthony Amatuli arguing with another man. The argument escalated, according to police, when Amatuli shot at the other man. Amatuli then reportedly ran off with police close behind. Police say they cornered Amatuli, who pulled a gun and began firing. Police shot back, hitting him twice.
Been arraigned at this time. Pending his improvement on his medical condition. He may be arraigned out of his hospital bed. That determination will be made by the doctors and the ADA involved.
Amatuli has been charged with first and second-degree attempted murder. He remains hospitalized under police custody.
Still no suspects in last Tuesday's murder of a Freeport businessman. But News 12's Judy Martin reports that Nassau police are in no way slowing down the investigation.
After locking up his store here on South Main Street, Freeport businessman Nathan Mizrahi was shot dead as he sat in his car here in this municipal parking lot last Tuesday evening. The shooting shocked area store owners and left police with more questions than answers regarding motive. Mizrahi was found with $1,000 in cash receipts on his body.
We're looking at several directions. Primarily now we're looking at the robbery motive. But as we find out more about his background and associates, then we'll have more angles.
Shop owners did not want to speak on camera, but did tell me that Mizrahi, a Freeport businessman for more than 27 years, former president of the Chamber of Commerce, was a community-minded individual. Some say the shooting could have been a failed robbery attempt, but now police are looking beyond that motive as well. Reportedly, back in June of '88, Mizrahi, 4 other Nassau businessmen, and a state tax agent were charged in connection with an alleged bribery scheme. Police say they are looking into that incident, as well as Mizrahi's other business dealings.
Certainly we haven't eliminated anything, and we'll look closely at that bribery case, yes.
Possibility of leads coming from that?
It's too early to tell, but certainly we'll scrutinize it, and we'll see where that leads.
If you have any information about the shooting, call the Nassau County Homicide Squad at 535-7788. All calls will be kept confidential. In Freeport, Judy Martin, News 12, Long Island.
Jury selection begins tomorrow in the murder trial of 21-year-old Robert Golub. Golub is accused of killing Kelly Tinez in his family's Valley Stream home last April. Golub has maintained his innocence throughout, but last month, genetic tests reportedly linked his blood to blood found near Kelly's body. Golub's lawyers failed in their bid to keep that evidence from a jury.
New Year's Day 1990, a time for resolutions and a time for new laws. Laws that clarify existing measures and add fines for other breaches of the legal code. But are they all necessary, or do they just make life more confusing? News 12's Alan Gristel tries to sort it all out.
As we begin 1990, a new year, we'll be doing more than just turning a page on our calendars. We'll be bombarded with laws aimed at everyone from underage drinkers to senders of so-called junk fax ads.
If you're under 21, you can now be fined $50 for the mere possession of alcoholic beverages. The old law only applied to underage drinkers who actually bought the stuff using a phony ID. But now you can be fined for just carrying a six-pack, but you can't be arrested. Well, if you follow that logic, let's go on.
It'll cost you a $100 fine if you send an unsolicited fax between the hours of 9 a.m. and 6 p.m., so cut that out. And starting January 8th, you don't have to give your address and phone number on a credit card slip. Merchants who require it will be fined $250.
There's already a law banning the sale of BB guns to anyone under 16. But now the new law will require gun shop owners to post a sign reminding customers of the old law. And starting January 12th, in a really get-tough measure, advertisers won't be able to send you a simulated check without writing the words, "This is not a check," on it.
Bad news also for parents who owe child support. If they win the lottery, past due payments will be deducted before they can collect.
The laws go on and on and on, but there are some bright spots here. As an example, the stakes in bingo games have been up from $100 to $300, and New Yorkers will now be able to buy wallet-sized copies of their birth certificates for identification purposes. I'm Alan Gerstel. Happy New Year.
Ooh, more confused than ever, but if you break the law, you'll definitely know that you broke one anyway. Well, resolutions made and resolutions broken are always a matter of discussion on New Year's Day.
Fran Purcell is here now to comment on the beginning of a new decade. Welcome, Fran. Happy New Year.
Same to you. You too, Lee. You know, last year at the same time on this show, we talked about the resolutions that were going to be made and the resolutions that were going to be broken. I think all of us at the New Year time like to do things which will certainly be to our benefit. I think one of the things that we have seen some definite movement in the right direction is on the problem of drinking. There's no question, in talking to people around in the different restaurants and places like that, the drinking situation seems to be getting much better. I think it's cut down tremendously. And speaking this morning to some of the police department, evidently both the departments in both counties, there seems to be a real letdown in driving while intoxicated. I think we'd all like to lose weight if we have a tendency to be heavy, and I think that we all worried about the drug situation. That's the one I think is really giving us the most trouble. I think if we can help people who are on drugs, that would be some way to really help in the future. Smoking situation, has evidently been great progress made in that particular area. And I think one of the things that we should make some resolutions, if you have children, is to take better care of the kids and make sure you know where they are. But you know, one of the things that disturbs me tremendously is that at Christmas time and at Thanksgiving, there's a tendency for a great many people, and they go have their picture taken at a homeless center or something like that, and they do that once a year. But I often wonder what happens the rest of the year. And I think all of us should take a little look at that. You know, we all live in an insulated community, and we don't know sometimes the problems that exist around us. But the problem of the homeless is a big one, and getting bigger all the time. And I think all of us, maybe instead of just at Christmas time bringing a turkey or something like that, we should try to do some of those things all year round, and I think it would be a better contribution to our society. I'd just like to close by saying I'd like to wish the new mayor of New York City, David Dinkins, the very best. I think he's going into one of the most difficult jobs in the country. I think being the mayor of New York City is really the toughest job of all. The presidency, we know, is not easy, but I think the mayor of New York City has tremendous problems ahead of him, and I just want to wish him the very best for the coming year and hope that he'll have good success in his administration. Lee and Roma.
A number of Long Island politicians taking oaths of office today. Tom Galata has his first full 4-year term. Several town supervisors in Suffolk taking their places now. As a former Nassau County executive, Fran, what advice do you have for them on this first day of the new year?
Well, I guess we all have different styles and all a different way of doing things, but I think if they can try to keep their administrations on an even keel by being honest and being forthright with the people, I think sometimes some of the political people try to be too showy and try to do things that they can't do. Level with them and let them know what the score is, and I think you'll succeed. And I think that was one of my, maybe one of my strengths. Maybe it was one of my weaknesses too, but I don't think that just being flamboyant is going to cure the problems of administrations today. I think leveling with people.
Fran, you had mentioned David Dinkins before. How will his progress affect Long Island, do you think?
Oh, I always felt, Roma, that the tying in of New York City and Long Island, Nassau and Suffolk County with New York City is very important. None of us live alone, and, you know, a lot of people forget that part of New York City is part of Long Island. Queens County is Long Island. It's never identified as Long Island, but it is. And I think it's very important that, I know I got along great with Mayor Koch, and we did certain things together. I supported the mayor on several pieces of legislation, and he always appreciated that. And I just hope that our county executives here will cooperate with David Dinkins, who is, in my opinion, a very nice man, a very decent man going into a very, very rough job.
Starting off a little bumpy, too, with the tax problems he's had that have been haunting him. But
well, that, and I think even the inauguration day created a little. Sometimes we could maybe keep the inauguration days down a little bit and not as flamboyant.
Not quite as flashy.
Right.
Yeah. All right, Fran.
Thanks.
Okay. It's nice seeing you. We haven't seen you in a while, so
well, I'm back
Happy New
again,
Year.
but I was fortunate enough to have some vacation. I'm going to go again very shortly.
Have a good time when you do, but for now, Happy New Year.
Right, and not for long, we hope. Thanks, Fran. Coming up, what the economic picture looks like as we head toward the 90s. We'll have the details.
And what changes would Long Islanders like to see as we enter a new decade? We'll tell you right after this updated look at Long Island's roadways. Stay with us. Happy New Year, everyone.
Can save you from those transmission failure blues.
Avoid those transmission failure blues with Gibraltar's $9.95 tune-up special.
These days, television can be overwhelming. Aha! Switch to Total and bring television down to size.
Same thing happened to the Davenports.
They got Total. They're safe now.
Total brings television down to size because it's the single source for complete information about all the channels you receive. No more zapping, no more wasting time, because if it's on TV, it's in Total. Switch to Total and get 4 free issues. Call to...
Since the United Presbyterian residence first started, our focus has always been on the care and understanding of the elderly on Long Island. Since then, we've grown into one of the most prestigious adult homes in the country. Now under construction, our pavilion will provide the broadest array of healthcare services available anywhere. For information on how we can help you, call our president, Mr. Alfred Heim, at 516-921-3900. The United Presbyterian Home, built on care and understanding.
Was the 80s a good decade for Long Islanders? And what are your plans for the 90s? News 12's Barbara Wood has some answers from around town.
As the year and the decade come to a close, Long Islanders can't help but look back at the past 10 years and think about what was hot and what was not so hot in the 80s.
Long Island Railroad, basically just being not on time.
Our beaches have been polluted for some time. It just came up last summer and the summer before.
The garbage washing up on the shore, on our beaches. And shore.
The main issue was pollution.
We lived by the beach, and the beach was closed a lot.
Coordination of mass transit and highways. You know, there are too many construction projects going along, and then they don't coordinate well with mass transit, so everything gets fouled up, and no one gets anywhere fast.
Lack of jobs for a lot of people. Traffic on Long Island, especially the Long Island Expressway.
Well, in Nassau County, the GOP taking everybody's tax dollars and spreading them amongst their family members and no-show jobs and $90,000 a year
janitorial help, that kind of thing.
Everybody's so uptight.
Long Island, like any other region, had its challenges to face during the 80s. But what's a good New Year's resolution for Long Island?
Get better mass transit and to coordinate better with the roadways.
Some type of program that would incorporate everybody to become productive citizens.
To lower the taxes and let the people live comfortably.
A decrease in the cost of housing on Long Island so that younger people can afford to buy homes on Long Island.
And I just hope that for 1990 that they have tighter security in the prisons and less drugs circulating in the high schools.
Let's hope that in the next 10 years there'll be less to complain about. But in 10 years we'll have a whole century to look back on. Chances are we'll find something. In Garden City, Barbara Wood, News 12, Long Island.
Time for business news now. News 12's Scott Feldman speaks with Dr. Erwin Kellner, chief economist of Manufacturers Hanover, about the changing political climate in many Eastern Bloc countries and the impact of those changes on the U.S. economy.
The start of a new year, a new decade. Dr. Kellner, thanks for joining us. The political changes in Eastern Europe, how is it going to impact the economy, worldwide and U.S. economy?
I think the political changes have significant implications for the U.S. economy, Scott. First of all, it will lead to a pickup in trade, and of course Long Island is very much involved in trade. The breakup of the East Bloc, the integration of the Eastern Bloc with Western Europe offers a lot more opportunities for U.S. companies in terms of trade. Secondly, it also will allow some reduction in defense spending, which will help the government bring its budget deficit down, and that's a big critical factor as far as the longer-term outlook is concerned.
Where do you see our economy, U.S. economy, in the year ahead?
Well, I think we're starting out on a slow note, just like we ended 1989 on a slow note. But I think that interest rates will come down, and that will help to revive confidence and the ability to borrow to buy big-ticket items, so that by the time the summer rolls around, I think things will pick up a little bit.
Where are we going to be in trouble first half? Where are we going to be doing well?
I think the trouble spots in the first half will continue to be those that we saw in the last half of 1989. That would be sales of automobiles, housing, household furnishings, the big-ticket items. I think we'll do better in 1990 in terms of environmental concerns, pollution control, waste disposal, things like that. And also, let's not forget infrastructure rebuilding. The after effects of the hurricane and the earthquake are just two of the reasons why companies that specialize in public sector construction will do very well in the coming years.
We've got cold weather now. What impact is that going to have on prices and on inflation?
It's going to have a significant impact. As you know, prices of heating oil have gone up significantly. Prices of citrus fruit have gone up. These will impact the inflation numbers for the next few months, but I don't think that that will be long-lasting.
Dr. Kellner, thanks very much.
Happy New Year.
Same to you.
And the new year also means the government will take a bigger bite out of your paycheck in the form of a higher Social Security payroll tax. The increase means you'll pay $765 to Social Security for every $10,000 in earnings, or $14 more than you were paying before.
Today is Monday, January 1st, 1990. And on this date, in 1863, President Abraham Lincoln declared slaves in rebel states free by signing the Emancipation Proclamation. And in 1979, the U.S. and Communist China celebrated in Beijing and Washington to mark the establishment of diplomatic relations between the two countries. And some traditions don't seem to change too much. One of those is the way we celebrate the new year every January 1st.
What has it been like on our contemporary scene? In the News Film Almanac of this day, these are among the reflections and images. One thing is certain, the years roll on, but the celebrants and the enthusiasm of their celebrations are basically the same. A nose count in New York's Times Square long ago revealed that for each welcomer who discards this annual demonstration, another is there to take his place. This could be today as well as yesterday, when Old Lang Syne replaced Old Man Blues and the happy first page of the brand new calendar danced before the eyes.
Some things never change. And also on this date in 1975, former Nixon administration officials H.R. Haldeman, John Ehrlichman, John Mitchell, and Robert Mardian were convicted in the Watergate cover-up trial.
When we come back, it may be warming up, but just how long will that last? Joe Choppy has the forecast next.
And today, Stan is back in the garden spot. That's next, too.
Welcome to the wonderful world of low-life plants. Coming up in the garden spot.
If you're a worker and have sustained a heart attack, back injury, or stroke, or are unable to work due to a condition or injury, you may be entitled to valuable benefits. The law firm of Shine, Fusco, Brandenstein, and Rada provides services in workers' compensation, Social Security disability, New York State and city accidental and ordinary retirement pensions, and construction accidents.
Learn your rights. Call 1-800-992-COMP for a free consultation.
Hurry to Park Pontiac, the place where service and quality meet 18 years of exclusive Pontiac experience. Right now, Park Pontiac is offering tremendous savings on all 1989 and 90 Pontiacs. Park Pontiac's service department is equipped with experienced mechanics and the latest in high-tech diagnostic equipment. That's why Park Pontiac can attribute 90% of their sales to repeat customers and recommendations. Come to Park Pontiac and drive away with your dream car before it disappears. Park Pontiac, conveniently located on Hillside Avenue in New Hyde Park.
Would you believe a team that was outscored 92-10 in its first 2 games actually made the playoffs? Would you believe that same team is advanced to the next round of the postseason? Well, if you said yes to both questions, you win. The Steelers are the team, and they beat the Oilers yesterday 26-23. Now, the Oilers trailed most of the game, but took the lead late in the fourth when Warren Moon hit Ernest Givens in the end zone. But with under a minute left in the fourth, the Steelers knotted it up at 23 when Merrill Hodge went in from the 1. The game went into overtime, and on the Oilers' first possession, Lorenzo White would lose the football, and then Pittsburgh recovers. That set it up for Gary Anderson to try a 50-yard field goal, and he would wind up putting it right through the uprights, giving the Steelers the 26-23 overtime win. And the win means Pittsburgh has a date in Denver next week while the Oilers go home for the winter. The other game has Buffalo battling Cleveland.
In other football news, it was a shock to many people that about 5,000 playoff tickets were still available for yesterday's Eagles playoff game. Maybe those 5,000 fans knew something the rest of Philadelphia didn't. The Eagles didn't soar. Instead, they crashed against the Rams 21-7. It looked like it would be a rout at the start. First possession, Rams quarterback Jim Everett lobs the ball to Henry Ellard, and he runs it in for a Rams 7-0 lead. Buddy Ryan wasn't looking too happy at the time, but Buddy, it would get worse. Rams second possession, Everett hits Damone Johnson, making it 14-0. The Eagles would make a game of it later on when Anthony Toney ran it in from the 1, but that was it for Buddy's boys as Greg Bell sealed the Rams win with a 7-yard touchdown run. The final was 21-7. The win means the Rams will travel to the Meadowlands next week to play our Giants. The other playoff game has the Vikings in San Francisco.
Over to hockey now. The 1980s began with what was known as the Miracle on Ice when the United States hockey team beat the Russians in the 1980 Olympics. Well, the 80s ended with another miracle on ice of sorts. The Rangers scored 4 power play goals and still lost, this time to the Penguins 5-4. Now here's an example of how good the Rangers looked at times. On the give and go, Brian Mullins scored one of the Rangers' goals, giving them a 4-3 lead at the time. But once again, the Rangers fell apart. First, Mario Lemieux tied the game at 4, and only seconds later, Mark Recchi scored the go-ahead goal, giving Pittsburgh the win. After the game, both teams made their New Year's resolutions, and for the Rangers, their goal may be to win a game finally. They are now winless in 11 straight games.
The Islanders' New Year's resolution may be to get out of last place and into the playoffs. They started off the new year on the right foot as they beat the tough Buffalo Sabres 4-2. Buffalo did get on the board first when Rick Vive beat Mark Fitzpatrick, but then it became the Pat LaFontaine show. With Mom and Dad watching, Pat would make his parents proud. First, the Isles franchise would score, tying the game at 1. Then a little later, Mom and Dad would be on their feet again as LaFontaine put in his second goal of the game. And if 2 wasn't good enough, then how about 3? LaFontaine liked that idea, so he notched his first hat trick of the year, giving the Isles a 4-2 win. It was only Buffalo's 3rd home loss of the year, and the Isles are now just 2 points behind the 4th-place Rangers in the Patrick division.
I was playing good lately.
Yeah, absolutely. How do you feel about the Giants' opponents in the playoff game?
I'm better off with the Rams than with the Vikings. I would rather play a team that's already beaten you than the other way around, because you have something to psych yourself up for. And the Rams will have all their excuses come next Monday or next Sunday, because the game's on Saturday, we hope. But for us, weather-wise, is they spend the day drying out. You might still see a flurry or two fly by, but get this front out of here, and we're going to enjoy a nice couple of days. These were the high temperatures for the day. They're left over from last night, as temperatures during the daytime will be falling through the 30s. Our weather watchers are sleeping it off today. Topped out 45 at Noyak, 43 in North Haven, and down through the 30s as the day goes on. But nothing brutal, we think. Coram, 45 for Riley the roofer. Dick Simmons, Center Reach, high of 43. Gene the plumber, 40 for a high. Carol Burnson, Mud Creek, Mary Jane Sagendorf, and Marvin Frickless all topping out near 40. Stats for the day, the normals 39 and 25. We will be near or above normal for the next several days, for most of this week, in fact. Low record 8 in 1956, record high 62 and 66. Sunset today at 4:38, sunrise at 7:19. By the way, the daylight hours are not getting longer yet, but in a couple of days we'll start advancing that daylight time. Here's your forecast for the rest of the day. Leftover clouds, breezy and colder as temperatures fall into the 30s and stay there. Tonight, skies will clear, cold, but not bad, 23 to 28, just normal. And a normal day tomorrow for January, early January. It's mostly sunny, breezy, and nice, 38 to 43. And with sunshine on Wednesday and lots of it, we could make a run for 50, believe it or not.
Sounds nice. Any New Year's resolutions for you, Joe?
I don't make them.
How about you?
One I haven't broken. I don't know. I'll think about it, and I'll be one of the, I like the procrastinators.
Absolutely.
A year later.
Maybe that's my New Year's resolution, not to procrastinate as much. Thanks a lot, Joe. It may not be the brightest of days outside, but no matter. In today's Garden Spot, News 12 Stan Dworkin tells us about some plants that do just fine without much light.
We are not in a botanical garden. We are not in a garden center today. No, we are in a Long Island apartment. And like most Long Island apartments, it's an ideal place to grow low-light plants. And we're going to be talking about some of the plants that the resident of this apartment is growing in these moderate light conditions. This is a plant called Nephthyitis, also called arrowhead plant. It is a relative to philodendron. And so you might expect it to be a plant that thrives in modest light conditions. What you don't know, however, is that it's a plant that requires a good deal of water. If you don't give it enough water, you're going to get these dead leaves like this hanging off the bottom of the plant. The lowest leaves, when the lowest leaves go, it's an indication the plant's not getting enough water. By the way, you see this stuff here. That is not a decoration on the bowl. Those are fertilizer salts. That means that these crystals, these fertilizer salts have been deposited here. It is time to repot the plant. That can burn through the stems of a plant. This is snake plant, and for those of you who are in really low light conditions and don't want to care for your plants, this is an ideal plant. It doesn't really require much in the way of care. I've seen it growing outdoors in full sun out in the tropics, but here up in the north it grows quite contentedly in a low light window. Watering, it doesn't really care. This is Dracaena Janet Craig. Say hello to Janet. Janet is one of the finest low-light Dracaenas you can buy. It's got these handsome rippled leaves. It is a delight of a plant and wonderful in modest light conditions. Some low-light plants from a Long Island apartment. Until next time in the Garden Spot, this is Stan Dworkin, News 12 Long Island.
Okay, Happy New Year to you, Stan. Coming up, where and what are the best spas for staying fit? We'll have the details.
And we'll also have a musical look back at a very, very memorable year in sports, 1989, right after this.
Guess what time it is? It's time for holiday and winter shopping. And there's only one place to go, Nemo's.
At Nemo's, we work hard to make your holiday shopping easy. By giving you friendly service and a tremendous selection.
So don't be left out in the cold. Go to Nemo's.
Shop Nemo's for popular Champion activewear. Champion, known around the world for style and comfort.
Nemo's, you gotta love it. Happy holidays.
For the next 14 days only, Country BMW offers Price Buster 24-month leasing deals on new BMWs. Just $289 a month for 24 months on the 325i convertible. Only $390 a month for 24 months on the 525. We'll accept your lease order 7 days a week. It's the lease deal you've been hoping for, complete with free delivery and pickup at your home or office and a free loaner car. Now you can have a new BMW every 2 years at the price you want. At Country BMW, call today.
According to our People file, the letters are spelling marriage for game and talk show host Pat Sajak, not to Vanna White. The Wheel of Fortune host has landed Sajak in a state of holy matrimony. Pat Sajak and former Playboy model Leslie Brown married last night in a Gothic-style Catholic church in Annapolis, Maryland. But have no fear, game show fans. While Sajak has apparently turned over a new leaf, Vanna isn't going anywhere. She can still be found turning the letters on the popular Wheel of Fortune game show. Despite his call for a kinder, gentler nation, a facial analysis expert says President Bush does not have the face of a kind man. Self-proclaimed face expert Laura Rosetree says she learned the art of reading faces to determine the personalities from an elderly Chinese man. Rosetree says every facial feature from eyebrows to dimples tells how people really think. After studying President Bush, she says there isn't a single trait of kindness on his face. Zorro is making another comeback. This time he'll appear in a weekly TV series on the Family Channel. Duncan Roujar joins the ranks of former Zorros Douglas Fairbanks, Tyrone Power, and Guy Williams as the latest romantic hero fighting injustices and defending the poor. Ephraim Zimbalist Jr. stars as Zorro's father, Don Alejandro. The 22 episodes were shot in Madrid, Spain, and will air in 38 countries. Zorro premieres this month.
One of the biggest concerns of our age as we head into the 90s is health. Eating the right diet and a certain amount of exercise are two ways people are using these days to stay fit. Well, because of this, health spas and clubs are as popular today as they've ever been. Pam Martin-Sarnoff has written a book entitled The Ultimate Spa Book, and recently she joined Carol Silva in our studios. Pam Sarnoff, welcome to News 12.
Thank you.
Clarify for us, what is a health spa, or what is a spa?
Well, a spa is a place where you can, it can have many focuses. It can be fitness, it can be weight control, it can be pampering and magic waters, mind, body, spirit connection. It's a place where you can be, you can eat there, you can sleep there, and you can do a complete health-type program.
I associate a healthy diet with spas. Does that mean that you have to starve? Does that mean there's an absolute ban on rich desserts?
Many of the spas have such delicious food now, calorie-counted and nutritious. And very often people go to spas who are not on a diet, and they can eat a regular menu. In the Ultimate Spa book, I have 70 spas. I visited all of them, 50 in the United States and 20 outside of the United States. And I really tell all about those things that you just asked, plus the strengths and the weaknesses, and they're marvelous colored pictures of all of them, so you can sort of get an idea of what they're like.
Let's take a look at some of the video that we have.
Wonderful.
You brought a video camera with you to the spas, and, well, here we go, exercise. I guess that's for those who really feel the need.
Well, a lot of people now are realizing that you need both an exercise and a healthy diet in order to be really completely healthy.
Golf is included, walking is included.
Right, those things are all very often part of the spa life.
A lot of the spas I saw are in California, they're in Florida, but what's local that you can tell us about?
Well, one that's very close to you is Gurney's, and that's right in Montauk. And they have a very nice water therapy program because they use the water from the sea. And it's a nice, low-key spa that people in the area can have a good time at.
The Woods at Killington, the spa at Top Notch in Stowe, Vermont. How do they fit into your rankings? Do you actually rank them?
Yes, I do rank them. I tell the top 10 in the United States and outside of the United States, as well as the tops in 9 other categories.
How did those two in Vermont fare?
Well, Vermont is really getting into the Spa Act, and it's a wonderful place because it has, a lot of it has hiking in the summer and wonderful skiing in the winter, plus a whole spa program.
How much do we have to count on spending? I saw that some of these run better than $2,000 for a week.
Oh, yes. But they start at about $600 for a week, and that includes your entire program. Then they can go up to about $4,000, and that includes much, much luxury. I mean, it is just the most wonderful, wonderful experience to be at one of those.
What's the best buy if budget is a concern for you, but you still want to, well, at least teeter on the edge of the lap of luxury? What might be the best buy?
All right, well, budget is one of my categories, so I do name many that are very good. However, I would say that one of your best buys is to call the top spas and find out when their budget season is. Because that way you get all of the same facilities and the same program. The weather may not be as good, but still it's a value.
Are there spas that are better for singles, for families, for couples, for men alone, women alone?
Yes, and that too is included in the Ultimate Spa book, but just for now, let me just say that my husband went with me to many of the spas. He enjoyed them as much as I did. My daughter went with me to other spas, and she just loved the time she had.
Which is the most opulent of them all?
Well, I think we have to eliminate Europe because there's so many that are so opulent in Europe, and you can tell by the pictures they are wonderful. At any rate, in the United States, I would say the most opulent is the Doral Saturnia in Miami.
Just beautiful.
Yes.
All right. Well, Pam Sarnoff, the Ultimate Spa book, thanks very much for joining us. The next time you can take us with you when you go on one of your trips.
Oh, I'd love to do that.
Well, this past decade of sports ended with a bang and a whimper. 1989 was a year when we said hello to new records and goodbye to old favorites. But overall, 1989 can be described by using one word: shocking. Here now is a musical look at a year that had its drama, irony, and memorable moments.
Second base, so the Oakland A's take.
I'll tell you what, we're having an earth.
We'd like to thank NBC, ABC, CBS, Sports Channel, MSG, and ESPN for helping us with the footage. And also a very big round of applause to our Rob Cattell and Seth Gordon,
for producing the piece.
Very
nice.
They did a terrific job. That is it for us this hour. Thanks for joining us. I'm Lee Tyrell, and we look forward to having you with us every day in the new year.
And I'm Roma Torre, in for Carol Silva. Thanks so much for watching. Stay tuned as more news continues, everyone, and Happy New Year.
The color purple. Entertainment reporter Steve Kometko spoke with Spielberg recently about his latest
Out of the ground, a mist fills the air. Truly fog. For travelers making their way through the night, the fog can be treacherous. But look beyond the danger. It offers a mystical beauty. A world of shapes and sounds. A world that appears almost alien. A world transformed.
He wrote a book about his experiences in 1976 called Born on the 4th of July. If the name's not familiar to you now, that may change very soon. Born on the 4th of July is a feature film starring Tom Cruise. News 12's Roma Torre has a report from Massapequa, where the Ron Kovic story began.
Don't you know what it means to me to be a Marine, Dad? Ever since I was a kid, I've wanted this. I wanted to serve my country. I want to go to Vietnam, and I'll die there if I have to.
The real Ron Kovic was born on the 4th of July, 1946. The film, starring Tom Cruise, follows Kovic's life from his youth on Long Island to the Vietnam War, where he was shot and paralyzed, and back home again. As a disabled Vietnam vet, Kovic's homecoming became a private battle that turned public when he joined the peace movement. Ron Kovic grew up in this house in Massapequa. In his book, he writes about the neighborhood with great fondness, playing stickball out here, digging up worms for fishing, playing football. But that was in the early 60s. Ron lives in California now, and his family's long moved out of Massapequa. And yet it seems no matter where you go in this neighborhood, you'll find someone who knew the Kovics. Kathleen Ambrosini says Kovic babysat her when he returned from the war.
He would, throw us up, and it was this really terrifying feeling because, being thrown up in the air by someone who you're not sure if he's going to catch you because he can't really maneuver,
Gary Mims and Robert Lambert were high school friends on the wrestling team.
He was extremely intense and dedicated.
A turning point in the film involves a wrestling match that Kovic lost.
He felt he was going to beat him. He got into the semifinals, and he was going pretty good with him, but then Hector caught him, and Ron wound up getting pinned. I remember Ron getting up and running right out the back doors, and we didn't see him again.
That was 1964. Kovic then went to war, and friends say he returned a very different man.
After coming back from Nam and his injury, I mean, he was open, real fun type of guy, and he was a totally changed person.
Bobby Lambert found a message in his high school yearbook from Ronnie Kovic, a friend he says he'll never forget. In Massapequa, I'm Roma Torre, News 12, Long Island.
Supposed to be a great movie, too. That's it for this hour. Thanks for joining us. I'm Bill Zimmerman.
And I'm Colleen McVeigh. Remember, at 6 a.m., News 12 will have complete traffic and weather information.
They keep the prices low.
I think it's gorgeous, beautiful, everything's here.
Once again, the customers are always right.
There's a lot of celebrating going on at Longwood High School this week. Their school is now the holder of several valuable awards. The Longwood Junior Varsity Cheerleading Squad went to Nashville, Tennessee to compete in the International Open Cheerleading Competition. They battled 49 other schools from across America and even Canada, and the Longwood cheerleaders waited for the big outcome. Could they be any happier? By the way, Longwood's varsity squad came in 5th among 60 varsity groups. And News 12 says, congratulations, here's a cheer for all of you.
Turning now to our People Files, former Beatle George Harrison says he is just a humble songwriter and claims writing music is, quote, all he's ever known. Harrison says he knows his songs bring a smile to some, but acknowledges that others simply switch it off. The Music Man maintains that one way or the other, songwriting is just a job to him. Harrison's out with the greatest hits album called The Best of Dark Horse. And please don't call this next story rubbish. It's about a dump in Wellesley, Massachusetts, where only live-in maids are allowed to take the trash. Part-time domestic help just will not do here. They will be turned away. The city says the policy is aimed at keeping commercial trash collectors from sneaking their garbage into the dump. A classy dump indeed. You might even say it's at the top of the heap.
Well, Born on the 4th of July. It's a new film. It stars Tom Cruise, and it opens today in most major cities. The film is based on a book by Long Islander Ron Kovic, who went to Vietnam and when he came home, fought a war of his own. And Roma Torrey joins us now with the review of Born on the 4th of July. Roma?
Powerful stuff. When Ron Kovic graduated from Massapequa High School in 1964, he knew exactly where he wanted to go, the Marines, Vietnam, a journey that over time came to feel more like he had gone straight to hell. Born on the 4th of July is all about this man's innocence and his eventual disillusionment upon his return home to Long Island. It is a powerful follow to Oliver Stone's other brilliant Vietnam epic, Platoon. Only this one goes much further. Kovic comes home a paraplegic, and the story details his emotional about-face from the naive Yankee doodle boy, as his parents called him, to an awakened and very vocal anti-war activist. It's an acting job that would have challenged the most. Nice work all around. Oliver Stone directed with great heart and soul, and with the exception of Tom Berenger and Willem Dafoe in cameo roles, you will notice all new faces, great faces, and ultimately very believable work. My only complaint is that the film seems a little rushed, jumping too quickly from scene to scene, and we're robbed of some very strong moments. Because of that, Born on the 4th of July just misses being a masterpiece. Still, though, a definite must-see. Stone does his usual fine job of taking a specific experience and telling it in epic style. The result is that you will be a little nearer to understanding Ron Kovic and the thousands of other Vietnam vets still fighting private wars of their own. It is to the credit of this fine production that Vietnam, Korea, and now Panama feel closer than ever before. Fine work.
What does Ron Kovic say about this? He's pretty pleased with the production.
Oh, he's ecstatic about it. In fact, he gave his bronze medal that he had won in Vietnam to Tom Cruise on Tom Cruise's birthday, which is July 3rd. Of course, Ron Kovic's birthday is July 4th.
Do you see some Oscars in some people's futures with this film?
Yes. I mean, I don't know if Tom Cruise is ready for an Oscar yet, politically speaking, but I do believe he deserves an Oscar for this part.
Some other critics had said the film was edited too choppily. It was too choppy. And did you find it difficult to watch at all?
It wasn't difficult, but as I said, you know, there's a catharsis involved in each scene, and we're robbed of that experience, that, you know, ability to follow through on an emotion. Other than that, no other complaints.
Is it a long movie? Is that what they were trying to do, shorten it?
You know, that's in Hollywood these days, in order to make a saleable movie, it's got to be 2 hours or a little bit less. And I'm sure they had to chop this one down just for that reason. Unfortunately, it could have been a masterpiece if they kept in about 20 more minutes.
All right, so a must-see then, according to Roma Torrey. Thank you, Roma.
Sure.
Well, finally this hour, no one likes getting a ticket, but as Steve Hartman reports, when a meter maid decides to hang up her little black book after 22 years, that's newsworthy of a citation.
She's
considerate,
friendly, cheerful,
understanding,
everything you'd expect from a...
I'm Kovic, opened at theaters throughout the country today. Our movie critic Roma Torrey is standing by now at Komac Cinemas with a review and viewer reaction to the film. Roma?
Thanks a lot, Scott. It has been one of the most anticipated films of the year, certainly for Long Island, with Ron Kovic, its subject, being from Massapequa. And by Hollywood standards, this is a very hot release with Tom Cruise its star and Oliver Stone its director. It opened in 2 theaters here at the Komac Cinemas, and I understand they're expecting sellouts throughout the weekend. You've heard all the hype, but is it any good? Well, here's my opinion. and the story details his emotional about-face, from the naive Yankee Doodle Boy, as his parents called him, to an awakened and very vocal anti-war activist. It's an acting job that would have challenged the most talented of actors, which surprises me all the more that Tom Cruise turned in such a convincing and moving portrayal. Directed with great heart and soul, and with the exception of Tom Berenger and Willem Dafoe in cameo roles, you'll notice all new faces here, great faces, and ultimately very believable work. My only complaint is that the film seems a little rushed, jumping too quickly from scene to scene. We're robbed of some very strong and poignant moments, and because of that, Born on the 4th of July just misses being a masterpiece. Still, a definite must-see. Stone does his usual fine job of taking a specific experience and telling it in epic style. The result is that you'll be a little nearer to understanding Ron Kovic and the thousands of other Vietnam vets still fighting private wars of their own. Well, of course, you know, everyone's a critic. I'm not the only one with opinions. We spoke to a number of film goers after the first showing here at Komac, the 1 o'clock show, and here's what they thought of the movie.
It's the first time that I've been to the movies and I cried. I couldn't believe it. It's so touching.
I thought it was a magnificent film. I hope it wins the Oscar, and I hope Tom Cruise gets it too. I think they deserve it. I think it's historically correct, and perhaps it'll open up the eyes of this generation, which didn't experience Vietnam.
You know, it really lightened you, let you know, like, a lot of stuff that was happening, you know, at that time. It's the best movie we ever saw, I think. Most moving movie of all the Vietnam movies we've seen. It's definitely the best movie we've seen, and she's very emotional.
What did you think of Tom Cruise?
I thought it was great. He was really, it was amazing how they transformed him, you know, his character from, because he's always, you know, typecasted as this young, really, you know, hot kid that everyone likes, but it's amazing when he got older how he really, you know, I was just surprised he was a good actor.
I've been in the Marines for 3 years, and I thought it was, he just kind of things he went through. It's real true. I've been in war games like that before. The confusion they showed and the combat footage was, that's really how it is, you know, it's just, you know.
From that reaction, I know it sounds like I'm on the movie company payroll, but believe me, I am not making a commercial. I couldn't find any criticism whatsoever about this film. Everyone seemed to love it. It is obviously that rarest of Hollywood movies. It's got quality and commercial, too. And Melba and Scott, if you plan to see it anytime soon, be prepared to wait on some very big lines. That's it from Komac. I'm Roma Torrey. Let's go back to the studio.
All right, I bet there will be lines, yeah.
Sure. All right, Roma, thank you. In some other news now, a Melville man who endured the Holocaust in his native Germany shared his experiences with some Plainview
Fighter satin interior latex paint is only $11.75 a gallon. And bring good things to life with GE. A 4-pack of soft white bulbs is just $1.76. So don't miss the Patchogue grand opening on the corner of Sunrise Highway and Medford Avenue. Home Depot, where low prices are just the beginning.
In Riverhead, Susan Jellick, News 12, Long Island.
The movie Born on the 4th of July brings the story of the Vietnam veterans back into the public consciousness. It's been 15 years since the war ended, and as Roma Torrey reports, for many vets, the emotional wounds have not quite healed.
Surprisingly enough, I went with the flow. I went through my training, didn't fight it. I didn't want to go, but I did.
The one thing that the DI used to tell us was we were protecting the California shore by going to Vietnam. So we were protecting the California shore. I got over there in Christmas '69, got hit in June 19th. But as all that time I spent over in Vietnam, not one VC came to San Diego.
You had a president, John F. Kennedy, who asked not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. And at that particular time, I thought it was the right thing to do.
You know the day destroys the night, night divides the day. Try to run, try to hide, break on through to the other side.
My
ended up as a crew chief on B-52s, which at that time was the biggest, baddest war machine that the United States military had to fly. And I said, hey, we're going to go over, we're going to win this thing with the B-52s. In a couple of weeks, it's going to be over. We're going to come home.
If he asked me to describe how I felt, I was terrified. I don't think I've ever been so scared in my life, especially when we arrived there. We arrived in the middle of the night. The base, at that time, we didn't know what illumination flares were. And as we came in off the South China Sea to land at Da Nang Air Base, the illumination flares were going off. Well, from up in the airplane, it looked like the World War II movies we saw on television, and it was terrifying.
When they came in the compound in the middle of the night, I was never so scared in my life. I mean, it was bing, bing, boom, flashes going off, and rifle fire and everything else. I got up, put my left boot on my right foot, my right boot, my left foot, grabbed my rifle and my ammo, and ran to where I was supposed to go. And you don't stop and think about doing things. You do what you were trained to do, and you hope that you're going to come out of it as well as your buddies that you're with.
Well, we all need someone we can lean on. And if you want it, well, you can lean on me.
I came into Penn Station. I was wearing a uniform. I was in a sling. I had just finished losing about 40 pounds in about a month. Basically, my first leave. I got along on a railroad train in the old days of the double-decker. I walked into the train, sat down. People on the train got up, walked off the train. All the way home, I went from Penn Station to Lindenhurst, and not one person sat in that car.
But I don't believe in my heart that the Vietnam situation will be resolved until we die.
You go to Washington, you go to the wall, and I'd say probably going to the wall is better than going to church. We owe it to those who didn't come back and those that are back and having problems that will do what we can to help them, because I think they deserve it.
Tomorrow, Roma Torrey will show us veterans helping each other. She does it with a report on the Nassau and Suffolk chapters of the Vietnam Veterans of America.
The Supreme Court will decide if state governors can withhold National Guard troops.
Movie Born on the 4th of July. We've been telling you stories of some Long Island veterans. Tonight, News 12's Roma Torrey reports on veterans who devote their lives to helping each other.
Vietnam, 1969. 2 of these soldiers never made it home from the war. For the other 2, coming home was another war of its own. John Denahan is one of those vets.
I was alone. You know, I was just for me. I had my own world, my own. I didn't want anything to do with anyone else. You leave me alone, I leave you alone. You know, we get by that way. I wasn't saying I was an alcoholic, but I found myself spending more and more time in a bar, because in a bar, everyone's your friend.
For help, he came to the Vet Center in Babylon. It's part of the Veterans Administration, and it's there for any veteran on Long Island who needs counseling. One leader here says it may be 15 years after the war, but they've been busy as ever.
When my generation went to Vietnam, or were called to service in various capacities, there was a sense that, well, this work, this job will be validated. It will be meaningful. And then you come home and find out that you're spit on, called idiots, found out that you should have gotten out of it somehow, and it's no longer validated, and you say, then what was it all for?
The tradition of veterans helping veterans has never been stronger than among those who served in Vietnam. This retired Marine Lieutenant Colonel heads up the service office of the Suffolk Vietnam Vets of America. It's a referral service for all Long Island veterans, whether their problem is disability payments, post-traumatic stress disorder, or just needing to talk. Pat O'Toole puts in 40 hours a week here, all volunteer.
I discovered I had a very strong affection for Vietnam veterans.
and saw an awful lot of suffering and an awful lot of need.
And in Nassau County, the Vietnam Veterans of America filled 7 tractor trailers with food and supplies to be delivered to West Virginia. It's one of the poorest sections of the country and has the highest concentration of Vietnam veterans in the United States. The next hurdle for the vets is finding out what happened to the 2,317 servicemen missing in action. Some vets believe there are still some Americans alive in Vietnam, and they're determined to bring them home. Leave it to a vet to see that it happens. In Babylon, I'm Roma Torrey, News 12, Long Island.
For information on veteran services, you can call the Vietnam Veterans of America Service Office number. That is 473-2253. And the Babylon Vet Center at 661-3930.
That's it for this hour. Thanks for joining us. I'm Bill Zimmerman.
And I'm Colleen McVeigh. Remember, at 6 a.m. News 12, we'll have weather and traffic information. We'll leave you now with some scenes from the EAB ice skating rink. Have a good night.
Quinn said that Cablevision was pleased that the offer was accepted and that there was no finding by the commission that Cablevision violated.
Time of the year, 35, 36 degrees, so that's the story.
We can handle it.
Yeah.
Thanks, Roberto. All this week, with the release of the Vietnam War movie Born on the 4th of July, we've been telling you about Vietnam veterans and their second war, the one they came home to. Well, tonight, Roma Torrey concludes her series with a story that takes place in Roslyn Middle School. It's about one vet who won his private war and who now serves as an inspiration to those still struggling to win theirs.
He's not a black belt yet, but John Carey is fast on his way to becoming a champion martial artist and human being. John Carey is blind, and in just 4 years after learning karate, he's turned his life around from a Vietnam vet at the brink of despair to a man who feels he can do anything. The story began in Vietnam, 1969. Carey was 19 years old and severely wounded in a landmine explosion.
I spent approximately a year and a half in a hospital. I underwent numerous operations, somewhere in the vicinity of 27, 28 operations for them to put me back together so that I was able to function. They knew I was going to be blind. They knew I lost my hearing, but they were not sure if I'd ever be able to walk again.
Not only did he walk again, but after overcoming severe depression, he resolved to learn jiu-jitsu.
I had contacted probably about a dozen or more schools prior to that, and I was turned down by all of them. They felt as though a blind person could not participate.
Eventually, he found a teacher who believed in him, and now he devotes his life to improving his skills and sharing his message with young people.
I'm the same as you. It's just that I was taught and shown how to look within myself, to find the spirit that I mentioned earlier, and to use that to overcome the difficulties in my life.
One of the amazing things about John Carey is that he says his blindness has made him a better martial artist. Now, you can't argue with him, and frankly, who would? He has won almost every tournament he's ever entered.
I compete against people who are not physically handicapped. They have divisions for handicapped people, but I chose not to participate there.
How do they relate to you?
I've won every tournament I've ever participated in my division. The first time they were surprised. One of the judges didn't even realize I couldn't see until at the end when he handed me the trophy and I walked in the wrong direction.
He is a phenomenon in the sports world. His opponents say it's as though he can read their minds. John Carey can't explain his success, but for the first time, he says, he's doing what he loves and doing it with conviction, warmth, and tremendous gratitude. In Roslyn, I'm Roma Torrey, News 12, Long Island.
We should all be that lucky, doing something we love and doing it with conviction. That's it for us this hour. Stay tuned. I'm Elba Tolliver.
And I'm Scott Feldman. Thanks for joining us.
Of Rockville Center announced the closings of 4 Catholic schools here on Long Island. News 12's education editor Roma Torrey is here now with a report on that. Roma?
Well, Melba, the latest announcement comes from the North Fork Catholic School in Cutchogue. It's the only Catholic school left on the North Fork and serves students in kindergarten through 8th grades. Once again, you can blame it all on economics, low enrollment, and rising costs, a problem that afflicts most public schools as well. In Cutchogue today, I found a staff and students hit especially hard by the sad news. The playground is empty right now, and after June, it'll be like this for good.
Principal Sister Patricia Sweeney announced the sad words Wednesday to the students. The school will close this year.
I told them about the closing, and it was, I guess, equal to kind of a wake. There was a real pall over the school.
In public education, there's a call for consolidation, merging school districts that have shrunk from low enrollment. The North Fork Catholic School has been a product of consolidation for the past 10 years, and yet enrollments have dropped so dramatically out here, even consolidation hasn't helped. In 5 years, the enrollment declined 30%, from 152 students in 1986 to just 100 today. The final blow came last summer when about 500 letters sent out to the community seeking potential students had absolutely no response.
Fork is becoming a graying community. Each year the community gets older and older because the young people can't afford to buy homes, and also work is scarce.
Despite a hike in tuition from $1,200 a year to $1,800, the school fell into severe debt. And for students who don't quite understand why they're losing their school, emotions ran very high.
We can't keep the school open because there's not enough money in the school.
How does that make you feel?
Bad.
It makes you feel bad? Are you going to miss it? Because you're going to have to go to another school, huh?
Because they really care about you. It makes it different. It makes it a better place to go to school, someplace where you really know you're wanted.
The school's closing is going to cost about 20 jobs, but teachers and staff say they're just worried about the kids.
What's going to happen to you? Where will you go?
I haven't even thought of that. I'm just very concerned with the children and being as positive as I can, and maybe in another month or two I'll be thinking of my own future.
And as for the principal, she's just praying for a miracle.
The only thing I think that could really help us would be if there was anyone out there who had a couple of $1 million who could donate that to our school.
In Cutchogue, I'm Roma Torrey, News 12, Long Island.
Let's hope they win the lotto. The North Fork Catholic School is planning a community meeting next Tuesday to discuss the closing and perhaps figure out a way to stay open. That's at Our Lady of Osterbrama Hall in Cutchogue on Tuesday night at 7:30. Tough break for the Catholic schools, and it only looks like it's going to get worse. More closings have been forecast.
All right, thanks, Roma.
Sure.
The head of the Business Council of New York State tonight predicts a taxpayers' revolt is about to begin in the state. Daniel Wall says the revolt will start on the island and eventually spread throughout the state.
Life in a rental community, it means country-like atmosphere.
New York chapter says our education system is schools
over the past road.
The NEA represents 90% of the nation's education.
There's 4 Catholic schools on Long Island. The latest is the only Catholic school left on the North Fork, serving students from kindergarten to 8th grade. As education editor Roma Torrey reports, for students and staff, the news is painful.
The playground is empty right now, and after June, it'll be like this for good. Principal Sister Patricia Sweeney announced the sad words Wednesday to the students. The school will close this year.
I told them about the closing, and it was, I guess, equal to kind of a wake. There was a real pall over the school.
In public education, there's a call for consolidation, merging school districts that have shrunk from low enrollment. The North Fork Catholic School has been a product of consolidation for the past 10 years, and yet enrollments have dropped so dramatically out here, even consolidation hasn't helped. In 5 years, the enrollment declined 30%, from 152 students in 1986 to just 100 today. The final blow came last summer when about 500 letters sent out to the community seeking potential students had absolutely no response.
Fork is becoming a graying community. Each year the community gets older and older because the young people can't afford to buy homes, and also work is scarce.
Despite a hike in tuition from $1,200 a year to $1,800, the school fell into severe debt. And for students who don't quite understand why they're losing their school, emotions ran very high.
We can't keep the school open because there's not enough money in the school.
How does that make you feel?
Bad.
It makes you feel bad? Are you going to miss it? Because you're going to have to go to another school, huh?
Because they really care about you. It makes it different. It makes it a better place to go to school, someplace where you really know you're wanted.
The school's closing is going to cost about 20 jobs, but teachers and staff say they're just worried about the kids.
What's going to happen to you? Where will you go?
I haven't even thought of that. I'm just very concerned with the children and being as positive as I can, and maybe in another month or two I'll be thinking of my own future.
And as for the principal, she's just praying for a miracle.
The only thing I think that could really help us would be if there was anyone out there who had a couple of $1 million who could donate that to our school.
In Cutchogue, I'm Roma Torrey, News 12, Long Island.
And school officials have announced a meeting with the community and anyone interested in discussing the planned closing. That meeting will be held at Our Lady of Ostrabrama Hall in Cutchogue on Tuesday at 7:30 p.m.
One more school note tonight. Classes at the Wyandanch High School have been canceled for tomorrow.